there, welcome back to Poly Live. Starting out with story 1, plot twist, she is monogamous. I'm so mad at myself for not communicating more clearly right off the bat. When I met this girl, we hit it up talking about the book, The Ethical Slut. We kind of worked together. I'm giving details for anonymity. I then matched with a girl on Tinder who seemed to be her. Same age, same name, same town. I live in a tiny town and there's not that many people matching this ID, if none. Her pic was against the light, so I can't know for sure it was her. She never replied to my DM. I suppose it could be because of the work thing. When the work contract was over, she invited me for drinks. She offered to pick me up. At that point, I'm having a massive crush on her and was happy the work thing was over so that we could get to know each other more. I was very excited. Mother Ducker. I mentioned being non-monogamous during that date. She was curious and respectful and wanted to know how that works for me, saying she is monogamous but happy to get to know people from all horizons. Damn it. At least I've got a new friend. Not sarcastic here, she is a great person and I do want her as a friend. I'm just disappointed I allowed myself to develop this massive crush on her, and for assuming things that were obviously in my imagination. Lesson learned. Now for the comments. This person says, I'm surprised this person's opinions on monogamy didn't come up while you were having your discussions about The Ethical Slut. Did she mention why she was reading it? Did you ask? OP says, I know, right? She mentioned being interested in feminism, women emancipation, and saying it's foolish to think one person could meet all of her needs forever. Looking back, I think she had an anthropology point of view / interest. This person says you can be an ethical slut and be monogamous when you're single, and monogamous people can get their needs met by multiple people such as friends and family, etc., and prioritize them as equally as a partner or spouse. And then this person says, sounds like a massive cue for you to have mentioned that you're non-monogamous. I know it's not easy, but I've learned from experience that you have to just push the topic to be discussed sometimes. People are either going to react well to it or they're not. The timing isn't going to make much difference. I mean, shit, I've definitely pretended to know more about something that I really did for conversation's sake before, especially if it's with work people, so I can trick them into thinking I am not a total idiot. Maybe she didn't really read the book, but guessed off the title. OP says, if only. I was talking about a writing subject of mine called Polyamory. She went right away and we started talking about The Ethical Slut. Part of me can't believe she doesn't know that I was flirting. Aha. Gotta work on that because for a hot second I really thought I was smooth. Hex Magazine says, you think she lied about reading it rather than the simpler explanation that anyone can read and have thoughts about any book? This person says, that is tough. But like you said, lesson learned. The earlier those convos happen, the better. Chex Magazine says again, maybe I misunderstood your post. The emoji and arm were flirtatious. She's just not down for non-monogamy and didn't know you were. Does your Tinder profile say non-monogamy? Does yours? OP says, yes, my Tinder profile says non-monogamy. And about the work thing, my husband and I were her clients. She very much knew that I was partnered. What I assumed was her Tinder profile, on the other hand, said, not sure what I'm looking for, so there's that. ETA, I'm not sure if it was indeed her Tinder. Moving on to story 2. Choosing polyamory, doing the work versus not meant to be. Seeking advice and shared experiences, wasn't sure whether to tag as advice or learning. I'm someone who, for myself, views polyamory as an identity. I perceive it as a natural part of myself that I discovered but can't change. However, I know that for many other people, polyamory, or non-monogamy overall, is a choice that they make for various reasons. My question is this: for people who have chosen to practice polyamory, how did you decide whether the challenge is primarily overcoming jealousy or simply the struggle of doing the work, as opposed to feeling that it is truly just unnatural for you? In other words, when struggling to transition into E&M, how do you know whether negative feelings are just things to work through or whether they're red flags signaling that polyamory isn't for you? Optional context. Asking because my current partner is trying polyamory for the first time and I'd like guidance as to what level of struggle is normal or healthy versus what would be an indicator that this isn't the right relationship style for him. I don't have the experience to guide him in this because polyamory comes naturally to me. He knows about this post and I plan to use these responses as a way to help us discuss the topic more deeply. We are already having open discussions about this as he figures out how he feels, so lack of communication is not an issue. We are in our early 20s and have been dating for 4 months. I'm open to specific advice, but I'd also just really like to hear people's stories of how they decided these things for themselves. Edit to add, based on some responses, clearly I've accidentally made the situation sound far worse than it is. We are not unhappy or actually struggling. We are open from the beginning and I did not push him into anything. I am more so trying to get a gauge for what level of challenges are normal and expected as someone transitions to something new and good, but very different, because polyamory came easier to me than it does for him. Now for the comments. Plenty of people who choose polyamory feel it's their identity, FYI. Choosing to live happily as a polyam is for some people the biggest signifier that it will work. The fact that they chose to pursue it before they met someone polyamory, the fact that their choice was independent. In your early 20s and a relationship that's less than 4 months old, there should be very few issues. Nobody is prying open a marriage or worried about divorce or the kids. It's just the relationship that you have, and the possibility of other relationships like this one. The work is mostly for people who are opening their mono relationship. The work is mostly in making room for other full, loving, happy relationships. When you're solo and young, it's cleaner. Am I happy in this relationship? Is my issue polyamory, or am I incompatible with my partner, or is it both? Isn't a question that most people need guidance with. I will say that some of the meanest, sloppiest, cruelest polyam I've ever experienced was when I partnered with someone who claimed that since his polyam was natural, he'd never felt called to think about his ethics or his partner's experience because it's different when it's natural. All polyam relationships take care, kindness, and compassion, no matter if it's a choice or something else. Converts require all that and more. Taking on a convert requires you to provide resources like books, The Smart Girl's Guide to a Polyamory Relationship, and an excellent place for folks to start. Bad gendered title. It's good for all genders. Suggestions for podcasts may be introductions to other polyamory people, like your friends, or encouraging them to go to local meetups. Emerald Dead says, does your partner have good support in their life? Friends, supportive family that they can bounce their experiences and feelings off of outside of you? Do you trust your partner to end things if they aren't happy? Well, converts usually don't work out in the long term. Accept that risk up front. Certainly not forever polyamory. That's part of the deal. Usually you look at their values. They believe autonomy is a core part of loving people. They believe mononormativity is a social dogma, not a blueprint. They would have eventually desired to create intimacy with others, and you just happen to be the right person at the right time. They are eager to process their emotions and become empowered by more knowledge and exposure. Those are good signs. If they are only doing this to keep you as an experiment, if they see other partners as side pieces, if they want to keep certain things still exclusive, if they aren't asking questions out of fear or ignorance, doesn't matter, those are bad signs. Now, since you chose a convert, I put the scrutiny and responsibility on you to do the extra work and time to help them become empowered, introduce them to new resources and other people so that they can learn and deepen their informed consent. I put you as the one who needs to exemplify mature resource management and a high-level processing skills. Something to remember is even if you are poly, each relationship is conscious co-creation. You always have to refine your vision and values. That's why it's always a thing you do for yourself. OP says, very thoughtful, thank you. I appreciate that you gave realistic comments about responsibility without projecting negative assumptions, as I've seen some people do to newcomers. Angel Grace says, relationship anarchist. I don't think it's about unnatural or natural. I think it's about what someone authentically wants to prioritize for themselves, because switching from monogamy to polyamory can be a lot of work, and a lot of people just don't want polyamory for themselves enough for the amount of work required to feel like the best use of their efforts. The deciding factor, therefore, is if those people start feeling like things that matter to them more than polyamory are starting to be neglected due to the amount of effort polyamory requires of them. OP says, this makes sense, thank you. This person says, I think a person's reasons for being in a polyamory relationship are pretty important for your question. If his only reason is that it's the only way that he can be with you, and nothing else about it seems like a positive or something he's interested in exploring, to be honest, it is probably going to be tough to have a long-term success. Not impossible, but if he's reluctantly poly because and only because of you, it might be a little hard for him to improve in something he doesn't actually want to improve in. I started polyamory when I wasn't actively looking for it myself. When my partner, who was a friend of at first, and I started being involved, and she communicated that she was only looking for polyamory relationships. However, it was something I had already on my own looked into a fair amount and had interest in. It did seem like something that would probably work out well for me, but I wouldn't happily agree to being mono if I met someone who was looking for that. Me and this partner, I will add, did not rush into a romantic relationship. It moved very slow, and escalation was pretty planned and practical, where it was like, well, we've been spending 6 days a week together for like 4 months. Do you want to have a serious relationship? Rather than meeting while looking for a serious relationship and then agreeing to polyamory because it's the way to make that work. So at least for me personally, everything felt very much like, well, things have been playing out like this and working well, so it makes sense. And that it's probably a good idea to commit to progressing in this direction of XYZ. TLDR, it really depends. Converts who don't want poly on their own, however, are always a huge risk to not work out in the super long term. OP says, thanks for sharing your experience. Happy to hear it went well for you all. I may not be your target audience exactly because polyamory comes very naturally to me, although I don't think of it as an identity and feel that it's something that I've chosen. I'm capable of doing monogamy. I've done monogamy. I just wouldn't choose to do monogamy again in the future because polyamory feels like a better fit. I picked polyamory specifically because my personality and emotional tendencies fit within it easily. If I had to work exceptionally hard to manage my instinctual emotional reactions, I wouldn't be practicing it. That said, I think a lot of people struggle with jealousy because it's such an uncomfortable emotion for most people. I'm not very prone to jealousy myself, but I do experience it when I'm feeling insecure in a relationship. I think jealousy often relates to insecurity. I say all of this to ask what your partner does when he experiences jealousy. Does he ask himself, where is it coming from? Does he ask himself if there's something that could make him feel more secure within the relationship? Does he articulate any insecurity that might be behind the jealousy and seek reassurance on that front? I think jealousy is a very manageable emotion when people can integrate it and feel comforted by the process of better understanding it and addressing any deeper issues that are beneath it. To me, the efficacy of dealing with these emotions seems more important than whether or not the feelings come up or how often they come up in the first place. I'm also curious about why your partner wants polyamory for himself in the first place. I think that having clear reasons why this is a relationship style that you want in an active way can help you through tough moments and tough feelings. Does it align with his values? Does he want the experiences you can get through polyamory for himself? Does he feel freer and happier while practicing polyamory for himself? Remembering the why and the good stuff when you're dealing with the hard parts is very important. Again, OP says, very helpful, thank you. That's all for today. If you're enjoying this story, please like and subscribe to our channel and check us out in the next video. Thank you.